Welcome back to the dual processing theory reaction that I've been putting off for over a year. When we last left our heroes, we had ended with the major theory that Cassidy is the crying child.
Communicating with the crying child, or that
So that's been in my head for a week. So let's roll with it.
Is the crying child.
Dun dun dun.
Newsflash, asshole! I've been
Cassidy.
the entire goddamn time!
All right, time to get mauled by the entire fan base.
Notes.
The floor is yours. Thank you. Stick with us. This is groundbreaking, I promise. The Cassidy we just discussed for minutes show on screen is not canon. I think a lot of us have forgotten this, but all of the above is speculation.
Cassidy is fated text spirit. Cassidy is the Andrew parallel. Cassidy's the Golden Freddy in the Missing Children's incident. Cassidy's the yeah.
May be the spirit talking to crying child. She may be a parallel to Andrew. She may be the Golden Freddy kid. She may be the vengeful spirit.
Why did Cassidy is the word search? Right.
None of that
It's like
is
the word the
ever
name.
spelled out in canon. To be fair, very little is.
True.
For instance, we don't actually have textual confirmation that the crying child is an Afton. We just have to assume from his connections to Michael, Afton's connections to the FNAF 4 house, and the security breach family of staff bots. Staffton bots. The thing with Cassidy? This little girl is not the vengeful spirit. She is not Fredbear's possessor. She's not even one of the missing children. The vengeful spirit, as will be discussed later, is someone else.
Oh boy.
And Fredbear's possessor, and the last missing child, is the crying child, Cassidy Afton. And you might be wondering, but he didn't go missing, he died? We'll get there. Let's look again at that logbook code. Yes, the hints on each page are from Fated's writing of my name. This led us all to believe that the name in the word search was, well, Fated's name. But Fated didn't make that code. Altered did. The coordinates are given via altered numbers, with the last couple being provided by Michael Afton himself, as we can tell with his red pen. And the word search is all altered text. The name is found through altered text, and the other hidden messages, it's me, who are you, what is your name, are altered. None of it is in Fated's writing. Fated does write on the next page over, and that would be a great opportunity for the authors to establish that this is Fated's name, but they don't. Fated instead writes, underneath a mirror, what do you see? Fated asks on that page, when you look in a mirror, what do you see? And Altered responds, it's me, Cassidy. But, you say, Cassidy was a different character in the books. She was a little girl. Yes, she was. And you know who else was in the missing child incident and in the novels? A boy named Michael. Michael Brooks, who isn't canon to the games either. Instead, Michael is William Afton's son, and so is Cassidy. Neither Michael nor the crying child are canon in the novels, with Elizabeth appearing to be the only Afton kid in the trilogy.
True.
So their names were repurposed for the missing children. Michael Brooks and Book Cassidy are not the children who died in the games. Instead, they have the names of the missing Afton children in the narrative, Michael and Cassidy Afton. Jeremy, being a missing child named in the games and not the books, when they were written around the same time, was cluing us to look at the names of the two who didn't appear in that image. Not to mention that the Fazbear Frights parallel argument doesn't work. Jake and Andrew have specific sight and touch powers because of their placement in the body.
Yep.
So I can't see having a point towards CC having less control than Cassidy is, as we say in Fazbear Frights, Stinger moot. Also note that the Stitch Wraith doesn't speak until it's only Jake in there. The only other time in these books we see two souls possess one animatronic, Rosie Porkchop in Together Forever.
Service, ladies in waiting. It's just one of you. I am your ladies.
The animatronic very
One day I'll get these books. It will not be today.
uses plural
It's expensive, man.
pronouns to refer to themselves. Your ladies in waiting. Which is interesting, seeing as Golden Freddy's only and very iconic line is in the singular.
It's me.
It's me.
Yeah.
Not us. Just me. As for the two spirits in game, the other glowing eye and Fredbear, that's not Cassidy. That's Charlie. Again, stick with us for a sec. Think about the Happiest Day minigame. We see 6 spirits there, the 5 missing kids and Charlie, and when
Yep.
the game is completed, all 6 lights go out. Most people people explain away the second Golden Freddy kid not being in happiest day by saying Cassidy is already torturing Afton in hell.
Yep.
But that means her soul hasn't moved on like the others have.
Leave the demon
so if
to
her
his
soul
demons.
hasn't moved on, why does her light go out? The lights going out symbolizes them moving on. It's because she's not the sixth spirit. Instead, it's Charlie, the sixth person here, who moves on only after she's sure all of the other children have too. And why is she represented by a light in Fredbear's eye?
Really interestingly, in FNAF 6, when the puppet is finally trapped within an animatronic, it's within a Freddy animatronic with one visible eye, one golden eye, named after
Lefty.
the left eye that is visible. Charlie is the left eye of that FNAF 3 cutscene. This is also reflected on her grave on the hill, being placed behind the other children and up to the left.
Okay, that's a lot of stretches. I don't know how I feel about that. Because, like, we didn't know Lefty was a thing in FNAF 3. We didn't know about Lefty until FNAF 6. That's a big jump. That's a lot of leaps.
Six spirits in Happiest Day were always the four missing children, Charlie and Cassidy Afton.
The glowing eye is the only hint in the games of two spirits in Fredbear. If it's supposed to represent Cece and Cassidy, why are there no hints towards two Fredbear souls literally anywhere? Help Wanted 2 really kicked off this interpretation in our minds. They have 6 graves, 6 poppets, and 6 Voltron figures.
Yep.
They could easily have had the Fredbear figure split in half, or 2 Fredbear poppets, or something like that. But they didn't. Because there's only one Fredbear spirit. This, of course, brings up the question of who Fated Text is. If Altered is Crying Child and Crying Child is Cassidy, who's Fated? It isn't Michael, he writes in red pen, and given that he provides 2 of the coordinates, it's safe to assume he was aware of the spirits trying to communicate, making him a third party. Also implies that he recognized the second spirit was trying to spell out his name and was trying to help him remember it. The Fated Text then has to be someone who knows the Crying Child.
First of all, think about it. When does Mike fill out the logbook? He's definitely the security guard for the first game and the 6th, with the others a bit more up in the air. All we know is this book takes place after Sister Location, since he references it. And if entered as the Molten MCI, that would place this logbook also after the first game, because assuming the pieces of the original animatronics were in the fun times, see Henry's keeping everything from them again,
My brain.
then FNAF has to take place before Sister Location.
I need that again. Please hold.
References it. And if entered as the Molten MCI, that would place this logbook also after the first game, because assuming the pieces of the original animatronics were in the fun times, see Henry's He Took Everything from them again, then FNAF has to take place before Sister Location.
Yep.
Now, Immense Andrew brings up in the survival logbook is still important, and it changes FNAF 3, that this book could very well take place during the third game and might be revealing Michael as the Night Guard.
Because it is, like,
basically
much
the biggest
later.
evidence we have on that theory, with Fazbear Frights' office being illustrated in the book with Foxy as the Night Guard.
This is the box
Lingo
stuff.
also implies that this is a more modern book, which would put it in the timeline of 3 or 6. FNAF 6, meanwhile, has a decent basis as well. This would tie into their close release dates and adds a bit more context to Michael drawing his own gravestone when asked where he will be in a year, since he knew where this restaurant would end up. So then, what does that leave us? With the candidates we have for Fated, we're pretty sure that this book takes place in FNAF 3. The Fated Text is most likely Charlie, trying to prompt Cassidy to remember himself for the happiest day. If it takes place in FNAF 6, then it's probably William, who is trapped inside of Scrap Trap.
Because in FNAF 6, Scrap Trap is no longer just Spring Bonnie. As pointed out by Stormmister in his video, I found a reason for Afton to look so weird. The muzzle and feet of Scrap Trap are not Spring Bonnies. Rather, they are Golden Freddies. Stormmister thinks it's very likely that these pieces were picked firstly to repair himself following the fire, but secondly, possibly, in hopes of taking away the animatronic mode's programming that makes him leave to follow audio cues, to give himself control back of his own body. It appears that after the FNAF 3 fire, Scrap Trap pieced himself together with some of Fredbear's pieces.
I did always think he looked weird. The FNAF 6 Springtrap always looked funky compared to FNAF 3. That's Now that's
And as we know
solid.
from the fun times, moving the metal moves the remnant.
Yep.
When ripping apart Golden Freddy, whatever spirit was inside was put into Scrap Trap. And Scrap Trap may or may not have ever realized that.
There's something else too. Scrap Trap would have known where Golden Freddy was at this time.
Right.
Because we were also told where Golden Freddy was, and didn't realize. In finding out where Golden Freddy was, we get more evidence that it did not hold a fifth missing child, but rather the soul of Crying Child only. Remember Night 4 of Sister Location?
Oh boy.
In it, we're trapped in a springlock suit
Oh
like Circus
boy.
Baby.
This fucking suit has bothered me this whole time. I've said it over and over.
Who simply says it's from her old pizzeria and was never used.
Uh-huh.
Or at least, not
Not
in
the
the
way it was supposed to be used.
Said
Yep.
springlock suit is never identified,
Yep.
but here's the thing. Sister Location happens right after Freddy's closes, and springlock suits were discontinued long before Freddy's closed. They were discontinued after those multiple simultaneous failures in 1983. Why would they build another one for Circus Babies? And if so, why only one? If
They wouldn't.
springlock
It's
suits were
from-
coming back into fashion, why only make one springlock and not the others? And if it's an old suit, we know Fredbear's only had two mascots, Spring Bonnie and Fredbear.
Right now, we have two specially designed suits that double as both animatronic and suit.
They were the only springlock suits, and they were both used, but not at Circus Babies. If Elizabeth was a toddler when Fredbear's closed, she wouldn't remember those suits being in use. And Circus Baby herself barely has Elizabeth's memories at this point. Most of her consciousness is of what a robot itself saw. If Fredbear and Spring Bonnie were moved to Circus Babies, they wouldn't have been used, considering it closed day one after Baby scooped Elizabeth.
Right.
They'd also be old suits, having been collecting dust for a few years now, so she wouldn't think they'd been used at all. At least, not in the way they were supposed to.
In Help Wanted, we see 4 Endo-01 skeletons in the furnace, leaning heavily towards the molten MCI theory, which is that Afton broke the original animatronics down, melted them into remnant, and injected them into the fun times.
Right.
Which is why they're like that. But there's only 4 skeletons and no Golden Freddy suit, and no Spring Bonnie. He carted the original 4 over here, so why not them? They're not in the molten MCI, meaning we're in one of these 2 suits.
And Spring Bonnie's suit
Right.
can't be the one we're trapped in.
Because it's got Afton
When
in it.
Afton falls into it, it's just laying in an abandoned Freddy's back room. Doesn't look like it's been moved in a long time. Certainly not to Circus Babies.
Then it doesn't get found until FNAF 3.
Which only leaves one springlock suit we could be inside of.
Yeah?
Yes, that's right. In Night 4 of Sister Location, Michael Afton is shoved into the same suit that he shoved his brother into.
Oh,
He is
wow.
in the Fredbear suit.
Oh,
It's just
boy.
big enough for one person to fit inside, but just barely.
Look at the face.
Okay. Okay. I've done this too. Like, I took screenshots from the gameplay and tried to, like, get screenshots from, like, the jump scares of, like, the fun times and stuff. Just trying to see if the insides look the same.
Compare it to Golden Freddy. The hole for the smile could easily fit the animatronic's muzzle. And more importantly, the suit has no eyes, just holes. Just like withered Golden Freddy. Eyeless, with an open smile as the jaw falls. Now even compare it to the trailer footage from Into the Pit. Look at the eye shape. It's the same
Oh.
mask. Girl, you have the same fucking face.
Also, if
Yeah.
you ask about the face opening up, the other animatronics do that too.
Yep.
The fun times aren't special. In an interview with Dawko, Scott Cawthon said something interesting about this suit.
So here's an interesting one, which I don't know if you're going to answer or not. So in Night 4, when we're inside the suit, a lot of people wanted to know whose suit is that.
Whose suit is that?
Fucking Scott fucking Coffin.
I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to answer that for you.
That's fine. That's
gonna have to remain a topic of discussion.
If it was just a new animatronic, why not just say that? Because it's not. It's Golden Freddy, and knowing that would have spelled out one very important thing.
That there was only...
If Michael was in Golden Freddy for Night 4, then there is no body in there. There is no missing child inside.
We know for a fact the other 4 missing children are literally inside their respective animatronics. The animatronics smell like death, they release blood and mucus. Their bodies were hidden there and never moved. So why would Fredbear be different?
Because Fredbear was never meant for any random child. It was always meant for Cassidy Afton. Cassidy Afton was the 5th missing child.
First, let's once again bring up the order.
Which makes sense. That they're carrying around a Fredbear,
Deaths in Help Wanted 2.
I guess.
Susie Chica, Fritz Foxy, Gabriel Freddy, Jeremy Bonnie, then Golden Freddy Kid, then Charlie. An argument can be made the crying child may have happened afterwards, as the Bonnie mask is found after the graves are all lit, but we must remember Midnight Motorist. The bite, which would have been represented by the mask in this interpretation, needs to happen before Charlie dies. Cece isn't the mask, he's the plush. Something we have to remember right now is that the crying child doesn't immediately die from the bite.
Right.
He's in the hospital for some time. He's alive long enough for Michael
Minimally, like,
to
4 or 5 days.
talk to him, and for William to promise to put him back together. We think that William took his son out of the hospital, either pulled a parent.
Okay, random note, but we recently looked up what happens if you lose your frontal lobe / prefrontal cortex. It happens, and it turns out they do send you home like really quickly because family and familiar environments are essential to the recovery period. Also, if you lose the entire frontal lobe, you get very paralyzed, so it's possible that Cassidy was out of the coma but unable to move on his own. So yeah, he could have just like been moved from the hospital naturally, which we'd known that during one of our recording sessions because that's like really good info. But also, let's be real, probably nobody actually thought of this and we're just overthinking everything like we do.
Pardon said he needs to be at home to recover, or maybe he just smuggled him out. Maybe he did that at the beginning and shoved him in that nice little underground bunker with all his toys in it.
Or maybe they just, more realistically, they were like,
Or maybe he
hospice care, there's nothing we can do, make him comfortable, keep him home.
does this on the last night. We're not entirely sure. It's not really that important. What we are sure about is that while CC is in his fun little coma, William starts killing because he's practicing, learning how to
God, I
put
hope this
them
is
back
loud enough.
together.
In Tales from the Pizzaplex, it's shown that the material of Remnant, at least the owner's own, has healing properties. If he knew or
Someone walked in, they think she was trying to hurt him. No, she would never dream of hurting anyone. Never told anyone her purpose of helping those who were sick. Pendant, silver.
was discovering this, maybe that's what he was after.
It goes into
After
Lolly.
shoving Susie into
Good to know.
Chica to hide her, Chica starts acting strange. While Susie isn't fully possessing the suit, it's still being a bit erratic, twitching at random intervals. Perhaps her agony is already inside of it, keeping her pain inside while her remnant wanders. As seen in Fazbear Frights, when Susie wanders her home all day, then disappears with the spirit of Chica at night.
Yeah.
But Chica's still acting weird. So William tries the same thing with Foxy. Kill a kid, shove them inside. Henry has set up a safeguard, a security puppet to make sure children don't leave the area, and specifically to make sure his own daughter, Charlotte, is safe. After one
That went well.
disappearance, you can't have any more, can you? But his flaw here is
Oh wait, we're saying Charlie's Afton's kid.
thinking that someone is luring the children out of the location. William is working on the inside. He kills
Wait,
Fritz.
I think I mixed up.
Shove them inside. Henry has
Oh, Henry.
set up a
No, never mind.
safeguard, a security puppet to make sure children don't leave the area, and specifically to make sure his own daughter, Charlotte, is safe. After
Just
one
keep losing the plot.
disappearance, you can't have any more, can you? But his flaw here is thinking that someone is luring the children out of the location.
Right.
William is working on the inside. He kills Fritz. He's starting to figure out that the remnant of dead souls may be able to attach itself to metal. Or maybe the suits are just acting weird because there are bodies inside of them clunking up the motors.
Definitely the more
He's gotta
rational
try
option.
again. Only this time, now that the puppet didn't work, we have cameras.
The final night, he lures Gabriel and Jeremy together. The last two to go were Freddy and Bonnie, which tracks. In every game, in every restaurant, it's you and me together forever and ever. Of course they died together. And when he killed them, either he thought he'd figured it out or realized he'd been caught on camera and was running out of time.
When we look at Fredbear's twitching cutscene in UCN, the soundtrack titles the scene Void. Pay attention to the way this bitch moves. First off, it's an undamaged Fredbear. It's not Golden Freddy yet, and it's far from withered. It's a Fredbear in its prime. You know where else we see this twitching? In the original trailer for Five Nights at Freddy's 3 with Springtrap.
Boy.
Showing possession, right? Perhaps. You know what else it may be showing?
Death. Like the spring lock.
Let's look at a very specific instance in the books. In Fazbear
the-
Frights
the
1:35
moment of-
a.m. in the
yeah.
show The New Kid,
Yep.
when Kelsey
Yep, I know this one.
gets into the Golden Freddy suit and gets spring locked.
Yep.
And the sound wasn't the bad part. It was bad. Yes.
I love that
But the bad
everybody
part,
has the Candy
the
Cadet
really,
voice AI.
really bad part, was the way the suit started jerking in a spastic, horrific dance. It looked like the moth-eaten, mildew-blotched gold bear was convulsing. But it wasn't the bear. Devon
Right.
knew it wasn't the bear.
It was Kelsey.
It was Kelsey.
Yeah.
What did I do? Look at it. It's still moving. He's still alive. We have to get him out of there. Devon glanced at the suit. It kind of pulsed, like it was a large, bloody heart getting in its last beats.
This shot isn't just showing that the suit is possessed. The other suits are possessed, but don't twitch like this, because they're not springlock suits.
Yeah.
The same twitching can be seen in the film when William is in the back room, dying from his springlocking. This shot and the FNAF 3 shot are shots of someone being springlocked. And the void shot of Golden Freddy is Cassidy's springlocking. Cassidy was placed into the Golden Freddy suit, and whether intentionally or not, springlocked. This kid was taken off of his life support, put into his worst nightmare, and made to suffer one of the most horrific deaths imaginable. William watches Fredbear do this horrible twitching as Cassidy, whether awake or not, dies, and then the suit goes still. And when it doesn't move after long enough, William concludes that it didn't work, which, oh shit, it, quote-unquote, didn't work. All of this was for nothing. But now he has a whole new problem. He can't just say Cassidy finally died in his coma.
'Cause he's
Look at his
chopped up.
body. If it hadn't been completely ripped to actual shreds like in Together Forever, it's mangled beyond belief. Not a single person is going to look at that and think those were from the coma. Everyone's going to know something's up, and considering at least one other person has been springlocked in the past, the wounds might be recognized. Henry would recognize the wounds and identify them. They see these wounds on Cassidy, they'll realize he was stuffed into a suit, and possibly begin to look into the others.
William panics. He'll leave the other children where they are to rot in the suits, but not his son. Instead, he takes the body out. He removes
fucking
Cassidy
box.
and puts his body in a box.
Oh my god.
To hide his failure, his horrible crimes, and to put his son somewhere he might be able to grab him should he actually figure out how to put him back together, he buries his son in an unmarked grave in the woods.
The Midnight Motorist. The grave.
The strange pile of dirt
Yep.
in Midnight Motorist. The next day, then, the police search the Freddy's security cameras for Gabriel and Jeremy. They see them being lured away by someone in a spring Bonnie suit, and come to one conclusion. It has to be one of the owners. Now that the Springlock suits are decommissioned, they're the only two who would know where the suits are and how to use them.
But when they get to William, he tells them that not only was he definitely totally home all night, but his son is missing too. His son, who was sick and dying, disappeared or got kidnapped. How awful. How tragic. And so, who gets arrested?
Henry.
Henry. Someone was arrested the night after the
true.
final two MCI went missing.
Yeah, but he gets out. So either they figure out it wasn't him, or he gets a very short fucking sentence for, killing 5 kids that he didn't do. But you'd think if they figured out it wasn't him, they'd have to go back to William. Like, we know Henry sets up FNAF 6. And I guess, yeah, you could say that's way later. And maybe he's gotten out, but he wouldn't. Alright, we'll see.
And was later connected to the 5 disappearances. Obviously, Fritz and Susie were tied in, but the 5th kid was William covering his own ass. He let Cassidy slip into the missing child incident, hiding not only the fact that he knew where Cassidy's body was, but that he himself was the killer. He can't be the murderer now that he's a victim himself. He's one of the grieving family members of a lost child. So, Henry, the only other person who can operate the Springlock suits, is arrested. And convicted.
Yeah, which
Don't
is...
forget, the second newspaper in FNAF says that the suspect was convicted.
Right.
As we stated before, it couldn't have been William, who still had control of the franchise in the years following the incident.
Yeah, but so did Henry.
But Henry? Not only would he be just as suspicious as William once they knew about the Springlock suit, Henry disappears from the game's storyline until FNAF 6.
I guess.
He disappears for roughly 30 to 40 years, depending on when FNAF 3 takes place and when the MCI would have happened. It's not because he just left. He was arrested, convicted, and imprisoned. Henry unwillingly took the fall for William in the missing children incident.
And following his arrest, what happens?
William gets the
His
company.
daughter is shunned by the other kids. Whether they exactly know or understand what's going on or not, they know her dad used to be in charge of the place and is now under police custody, and he's the reason all those other kids went missing.
Which is why they
So
lock her
they
out.
bully her.
Yeah.
And one fateful night, lock her outside.
Now Henry is imprisoned and can't be there for her. The security puppet is trapped in its box, and the kids lock Charlie outside, not wanting the killer's daughter at their party. Charlie, meanwhile, just wants to go back in. Then William drives up.
William's drunk. He killed 4 children and for nothing. Whatever he was trying, he ended up with a dead end, or at least 5 dead ends. He has to pretend that Cassidy is just missing and that he didn't bury him alone in the woods, that he didn't kill 4 children and let his business partner take the fall for him. Utah is a death penalty state. Henry will most likely be put on death row for this. And for what? For Cassidy to just die anyway. He drives up to Freddy's in his drunken stupor, and he sees Charlotte outside the building, locked out. His rage and anger at himself and at Henry, the man who built the animatronic that bit his son, takes over, and he does one final kill. He murders Charlotte Emily in the alley. He's not hiding her body, though. He doesn't care anymore. He just leaves her
I've gotta watch Matt Pat watch this. He's gonna fucking lose his mind.
outside in the rain and drives home.
In this, he may have saved his own ass once again. When Charlotte is inevitably found, she won't be chalked up to a victim of the same killer as the MCI. The death is completely different. She wasn't lured away, and her body was found.
Right, so they can't be like, oh, see, there's another one while Henry's in prison, so it couldn't have been him. So actually, we've got the wrong guy.
It'll be chalked up to a copycat or a vigilante hoping for vengeance on Henry. It won't prove Henry innocent. If it's a different killer, then they can't say we must have gotten the wrong guy, seeing his kids are still dying. Charlotte dies, and Henry is still in jail for it.
That's brutal.
Later that night, after he drives home, he tries to see Michael, only to find he's escaped to that place. And what is that place?
The grave?
The gravesite.
Yeah.
How Michael discovered the unmarked grave is unknown. Perhaps he saw on the night his dad buried it, sneaking after him when he stopped to
The
grab a
clips of the
shovel.
heart.
Maybe he saw his dad visit once and started to piece together what it was. Or maybe, just maybe,
Because I know where they're going with this, I think. Wait, now I'm confused. So we're saying this is Michael's room. Okay, but then who's sitting on the couch with the gray text? Like Michael. So William walks into the house. Michael's there watching TV like he does in Sister Location, we think. We've correlated. And then he goes up to Crying Child's door. So if we're saying that this is not Crying Child's door, this is Michael's door, Cassidy, Crying Child, is dead, gone, pushed bye. Then who was the other person? Sitting outside watching TV. And he's gonna say that Cassidy's in Golden Freddy comes and breaks the window to because we can see we've always seen the prints there, to get Michael to follow him or something. So I know where they're going with that, but if we're saying this is Michael's room, then who the fuck is sitting outside?
And what is that place? The gravesite. How Michael discovered the unmarked grave is unknown. Perhaps he saw on the night his dad buried it, sneaking after him when he stopped to grab a shovel. Maybe he saw his dad visit once and started to piece together what it was. Or maybe, just maybe, Cassidy was trying to show him. Unbeknownst to William, his plan had worked.
Right.
Cassidy's soul was now tied to Golden Freddy, but it wasn't like the other souls. It was confused, volatile, because the soul was separate from the body now. The body wasn't in Golden Freddy, it was buried in the woods.
Oh.
Golden Freddy appears outside of Michael's window and beckons him to find him. It's not the actual suit though, it's physical enough to leave prints, but the suit itself doesn't move. Think of the scene in the 2023 film where Golden Freddy's ghost is present enough to kill Aunt Jane, but also gets into the house without breaking the door, if you notice. It vanishes like it's not a real suit, but sure hits like one. It can suddenly appear and disappear. In the same way, the game's Fredbear ghost works like this. It appears outside Michael's window at a somewhat stable function, while the actual suit is still sitting in a back room.
Michael's starting to suspect that his dad may not be as innocent as he appears. He wonders why his father wasn't paying enough attention to Cassidy and how Cassidy got snatched.
Right, how do you,
if he was,
right, how do you snatch a kid in a coma?
In a
Tell
coma.
me no one's watching
if
the kid
he's
in the
even
coma.
connected to this at all. Then he starts seeing apparitions of Golden Freddy and starts following
That
it.
leads him to the grave.
Maybe he knows it's a ghost, maybe he thinks it's a manifestation of his own guilt.
Or that.
But he follows it and goes to a place where his father was digging one night and tries to find his brother's grave.
William is angry at Michael for going to the gravesite. If anyone sees him and figures out what he's doing, William's fucked. They'll know Cassidy is buried in the woods and not missing, and William's story will start to fall apart. William's caught Michael near the grave before, and he knows Michael suspects something is up. So, knowing Michael ran off to that place again, he vows that he's going to regret it. He's going to regret digging into his father's sins. The box holding Michael's brother? Left forgotten. For now. As for Michael...
We're gonna have to quote Scott on that.
Well... Let's talk about the nightmare gas!
Oh, God.
In Tales from the Pizzaplex's Didophobia, we see a young boy trapped in a makeshift house, made to appear realistic via hallucinogenic gas being pumped into the room day in and day out. He believes himself to be reliving the same day over and over, not processing the repetition. At night, he has horrifying encounters with the nightmare animatronics, but upon the gas being diluted, he realizes the house is bare bones. The animatronics are just puppets, and he's been here for far longer than he knew. He was kidnapped and put into an experiment on fear, which automated itself after being abandoned.
Yeah.
He realizes that he is in a hidden area of the sister location bunker, and after trying to call for help, hears a tape of likely Afton convincing him to turn the gas back on and go back to his delusion. Is this true to the games? Possibly.
Yeah.
If you look in sister location, there's tanks of unlabeled gas literally everywhere. There's at least 3 in every room. Pumping the place full of nightmare gas would explain quite a few things about it. And the nightmare gas experiments explain the connection between the FNAF 4 house and sister location, as seen in the latter game's custom night, as well as the fact the FNAF 4 house does not match up with the crying child's house as seen in the cutscenes.
When looking at the contents of the scooping room in Ruin, which may or may not be the same room, it's debatable, but it was definitely heavily inspired at the least, you can find several cans of nitrous oxide, which is being actively pumped into the room. Nitrous oxide is indeed a hallucinogen, which can make you disassociate and, in rare cases, cause out-of-body experiences and delusions. So the nightmare gas could just be nitrogen, but there is one caveat that it works mainly as a sedative and laughing gas, which would make someone calmer and less prone to nightmares. It's literally used to induce euphoria, which is the opposite purpose of the nightmare gas, which makes it highly unlikely that it alone is our gas. It could be used in the nightmare gas formula or machinery, but it's definitely not the sole culprit.
Yeah.
There are many, many other uses though, which will actually be discussed later. That being said, a certain amount of these stories could be seen as equivalencies more than fact. Similar to Candy Cadet's stories, more of them as a different possibility in a different universe. Things are ever so slightly off to show that this isn't the same one as the games or the novels. Things are swapped out and changed. It very well could be the nightmare gas was this kind of swap, while our nightmare animatronics are the ones with the novels' series illusion discs that people have claimed to see on their endoskeletons. Whatever method, they're not the crying child's dreams, they're experiments. Experiments now on Michael. William was experimenting on a lot of things and trying to find immortality or bring his dead son back or whatever. Why he was experimenting with child fear seems weird to me, but if I'm right and he was trying to produce Remnant, that could be the cause. Or, more likely, he was getting agony.
Agony in the books is a powerful source.
Sure is.
Eleanor is a living being made solely of agony. And in case you don't know the Fazbear Frights lore, when the soul dies in a close enough proximity to something metal, Remnant is the good memories, agony is the bad, and that's what causes objects to go haunted. Anyway, Taggart was doing experiments on making a living thing just out of agony parts. If
Yep.
Afton discovered Remnant, he probably discovered Agony too, and decided the nightmare gas was a great way to test this shit out. And, well, fuck it. Might as well test that gas on the kid who's digging a bit too far, both literally and
That's
metaphorically. Also, if
wild.
Afton was freaking crazy even before Cassidy died, could explain what the sister location bunker was doing active in 1983 with a
With the
Fredbear
Fredbear
plushie.
plushie.
We might already have kids down there. When Michael gets home, still unable to find his brother's body, William takes him on a father-son trip to his little secret bunker. How do we know Michael got nightmare gassed? Once again, we looked at the security logbook.
Oh boy.
On one page, faded text asks, "Do you have dreams?" On the same page, Michael sketches Nightmare Fredbear. Only someone who'd been through FNAF 4 gameplay would know what Nightmare Fredbear looked like, because he went through these experiments, and the nightmares persisted well into his adult life. He has dreams of the same halls, of the nightmare creatures with
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Because we've always seen FNAF 4 as Crying Child's final, like, coma dreams. Right? But if that were true, then Michael wouldn't be able to draw Nightmare in the book. Just fucking... fuck.
teeth in their stomach, teeth everywhere. The teeth that killed his brother now coming for him.
How long he's there is questionable, but I don't actually think too long. We know as an adult he has his own house that's in a neighborhood and not in the middle of the woods like the Afton house, and his neighbors seem to recognize and like him, so he's not in that chamber forever. If he's Fritz Smith in FNAF 2, he was out by 1987. Likely Will just kept him there for long enough that nobody would notice, or as long as William just wanted to experiment for. When Michael comes out, he's terrified and more traumatized than before, and he knows what will happen if he keeps questioning his father. So he shuts off, tries to keep living and keep going. He's fallen back into trying to get his
Right.
father's approval as a trauma response to the abuse he's been going through. Even before the nightmare gas, William was coming home drunk just to yell at him. As Oswald does in Into the Pit, when nobody can tell his father is now a murderous yellow rabbit, he decides to play along. Michael tries to please him, to make him happy, and pushes any and all doubts aside. If he starts questioning, he has to live in a nightmare again. Or possibly the nightmare gas literally gaslit him into thinking he was just hallucinating the whole time, and his father is now the only person he can actually trust. Either way, his dad has full control of him.
Fair.
We mentioned later that we believe Michael was Fritz Smith, and it's basically confirmed he's the guard for FNAF 1.
Right.
We know for a fact he was the later guard of Sister Location. All three of those, I believe, were as errands for his father. I think he's under the same level of control that Vanessa is in the 2023 film.
And help me clean up the mess that you created!
Pretends to be a normal adult, he acts as though he has his own life, but really he's always just doing what his dad says. He can have his own house, sure, but he has to come when his dad calls. And why wouldn't he? He's been gaslit and gassed at the same time. Part of him understands just how dangerous his dad really is. The other part just wants his approval after all this time. For now, though, Michael has just become another tool of his father. Something that makes William very happy. For now.
Now, when does the rest of our story continue? 1987, when they realize the animatronics actually are haunted because of Charlie.
Give gifts goes life.
Was that the bite of 87?
When Charlie died, the puppet escaped its box and found her in the alley. Not waterproof, though. The rain made it malfunction and crash on top of her, and her spirit attached itself to the
Think of a good place to
animatronic.
stop.
When it was repaired and put back inside, she woke up. She was in the pizzeria,
There.
and she could tell that she wasn't alone. And it was in Charlie's nature to protect the innocent. She could have moved on, but not.
Yeah, these have always driven me nuts. This opening in FNAF 2. Like at the start of each night. They're so... Like, we've just never talked about them.
While there were still children there who needed her. She recognized the souls inside of these animatronics like hers was, and
This is also what she does in FNAF 3. On the rare times you sorry, like the hiccups. in FNAF 3, the rare times you get the puppet distraction, phantom puppet, shadow puppet, phantom puppet. It does that. It stays in front of your eye line, which is interesting.
Decided to stay for them. It might have taken her a while, though, to figure out what exactly to do. The souls weren't in the animatronics exactly. They were wandering, like Susie in Fazbear Frights, going between places that were familiar, but always coming back to Freddy's. But Charlie wasn't wandering. She had full control of the puppet that had crashed atop her. Then she figured out it had to do with the bodies. Back to Tales from the Pizzaplex. In the same book as Didophobia is Alone Together, in which possession in the FNAF universe is basically explained to us beat for beat.
Great.
Most importantly for this, main character Travis's grandmother tells him,
Most ghosts linger around the place they died, especially if their remains are undiscovered. They travel around the places that are familiar to them.
the story shows that ghosts will wander, confused and lost, until finding their own body.
So she showed
Upon
them.
seeing themselves, they will suddenly become whole instead of broken and scattered.
So she showed them where their bodies were. And this is going to be similar to, I don't remember what book it was in, but in the movie, when you put all of the pieces of like a drawing together or whatever, it reminds the kids like, oh, we were killed by that guy. That guy we've been working for, he killed us. Rude.
Their memories of their death return, and they understand where they are and what has happened.
Charlie Puppet figures this out, and then figures out where the bodies are. In the Give Gifts, Give Life minigame, she's not putting masks on dead children.
She's telling
Quite
them
the
which
opposite.
thing they're
She
in.
removes the masks and shows the ghosts their own bodies, stuffed into animatronics. They're able to remember who and what they are, and now they're able to fully possess the animatronics. No longer wandering spirits, they fuse themselves to their robot bodies. All except for Cassidy Afton. Charlie finds Fredbear, still left in the back room with Spring Bonnie. He's possessed, like the others, but unlike the others, something is different.
The body's not there.
Cassidy is there, but he's confused and wandering. He's only half in that bear, half somewhere else.
Yeah.
Never quite able to bond. He can't even move the suit from its slouching, sitting position. Just make it twitch a little, the more uncomfortable he gets. Charlie Puppet realizes that she can't help him, because his body isn't inside of him. She can't give him the life that she gave to the others, because his body isn't here. So while the others become more in control, Cassidy slips away. He's been trying to appear to Michael, begging him to find him, but then Michael stops responding. So Cassidy just has to sit in that position, waiting, wandering. The main four animatronics, meanwhile, are now fully possessed, but even then, the ghosts are a bit confused and lost. All they know is they fear adults, as any adult could be the one in the Spring Bonnie suit that had killed them.
Yep.
So they start attacking night guards, adults who are alone in the place, much like Spring Bonnie got them alone. And during the day, they just stare at the adults, trying to figure out who is the enemy. Freddy's closes. It's been years, and the place still can't shake the tragedy that happened there. But a second location opens, a little while away. This is the FNAF 2 location.
What exactly was happening there, by the way? We know there was an investigation going on.
Yep.
Phone Guy says in his calls to Night Guard Jeremy Fitzgerald that there's something tragic going on out there that totally has nothing to do with them, Pinky Promise.
Right.
Oh, hey, before I go, I wanted to ease your mind about any rumors you might have heard lately. You know how these local stories come and go and seldom mean anything. I can personally assure you that whatever is going on out there, however tragic it may be, has nothing to do with our
Love the Dread Bear music in the background. It's always been like the creepiest music.
establishment.
Then he says that an investigation in the restaurant happens, and they may have to close for a few days.
Okay, so just to update you, there's been somewhat of an investigation going on. We may end up having to close for a few days. I don't know. I want to emphasize, though, that it's
When is someone used one of the suits? Is that a FNAF 3 tape? Because it could be like
really
from the
just
same
a
time period.
precaution. Fazbear Entertainment denies any wrongdoing.
I think it's a
Things
FNAF
happen
3 tape.
sometimes. It'll all get sorted out in a few days.
Then it's the building is on lockdown, nobody is allowed in or out, especially concerning any previous employees, and they are trying to track down the original owner of Fredbear's. He also implies that the day shift guard is the one who's gotten himself banned, as the position just became available.
From what I understand, the building is on lockdown. No one is allowed in or out, you know, especially concerning any previous employees. When we get it all sorted out, we may move into the day shift. The position just became...
See, I always saw that as a spring lock incident. I don't know why in my head. But it was always just like either that or the guy quit. But otherwise he would have said he quit. In my head, it was always man got.
Available. We don't have a replacement for your shift yet, but we're working on it. We're gonna try to contact the original restaurant owner. I think the name of the place was Red Bear's Family Diner or something like that. It was closed for years, though. I doubt we'll be able to track anybody down.
The next day, Phone Guy tells Jeremy Fitzgerald that the place will be closed for a while following this last birthday party, because someone had used the yellow suit in the back, causing the animatronics to go haywire.
The place is closed down, at least for a while. Someone used one of the suits. We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. Someone used it. Now none of them are acting.
Yeah, because yeah, the old ones were here. Like, the second they see... Or they're going to say it was Freddy or Bonnie, because we've always just assumed it was Spring Bonnie. And then they all see it and they go, oh, that's the guy who killed us, and they freak out.
So what the fuck does any of that mean?
So the Fazbear Corporation, after the inevitable closure of Freddy's, decides to open a new location. But this one will be safer, more high-tech.
Yeah,
William may have been out of the franchise for a while.
They have, like, access to the Predator database and all that shit. The toy animatronics.
But he has to get back once they start talking about using the old animatronics.
Yep.
He can't let that happen. There's fucking bodies in there. So he says, outfit them with new tech, and then says, you know, these guys are just so ugly. Let's just make new ones. The corporation lets him do that, so long as he uses parts from the originals to make the new ones. They gotta save costs as much as possible.
So
William
on
does
spirits.
that, but as he does, he starts noticing things. The suits, both old and new, are moving,
Yeah.
and they really don't seem to like him. The new animatronics are given technology to recognize criminals. This shouldn't bother him, he's not a convicted criminal, but they still are wary of him. Even after the animatronics are complete, they're acting weird towards adults. And so is the puppet. He eventually takes a night guard position under a fake name to investigate further. Yes, he's big in the company, but the local manager communicates with the corporation, not him specifically.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to contact the original restaurant owner.
And it's there that he realizes the truth. It did work. The animatronics are possessed. He can find immortality here and or bring his son back. He's probably lost the plot by now if he even had it to begin with. But now he's fucked up a bit more.
Yeah.
In taking apart the original animatronics, he split the souls inside,
Call
like
it
they were before
splitsies.
they found their bodies, but worse. The animatronics are now even more confused and erratic than they were at the first location. He took the souls apart like the toddlers did to Mangle, and it went just about as well.
Yeah.
Once he realizes the night shift is a bit too dangerous, he's all alone after all, he switches to the day shift, and he decides to experiment some more by killing more kids. He's nothing if not frustratingly consistent.
Whether or not any children actually died in the FNAF 2 location, or if this is just a metaphor for the first incident, is a debate within the fandom. The only evidence we have is in the final FNAF 2 minigame, where Withered Freddy wanders the location and sees bodies scattered around, along with the other Withereds. Is that supposed to just represent the MCI, or is it the DCI, a dead children incident? We think the DCI did happen, but William's experiments weren't working. He didn't shove these kids into suits, just killed them to see what would happen.
Right.
He didn't use the Spring Bonnie suit yet, though. That's still in the back rooms. Instead, he lures them with that fucking bastard balloon boy.
I'm sorry. Well, I was gonna stop it at the end, but now I have
Anyone
to know.
ever asked what Balloon Boy's deal is? Is he possessed?
Yes!
Did he get parts of the Withereds? Did he just appear out of the ether and we don't
Lucky boy.
question him lest he damn us to hell for our transgressions? Wrong. he's a lore.
Mm-hmm.
We know by the time William got to the Fun Times, he made Funtime Foxy specifically as a lore. They are shown to have, quote, parental voice sync and replay, as well as variable scent release. The specific notation of parental voice really shows what this was supposed to be for. It was to lure kids with their parents' voices or appealing scents. What this tells me is that William learned, likely from being caught on camera with Gabriel and Jeremy, that he can't be the direct lure. It's too dangerous. He's too likely to be caught.
Now it's the FNAF 6
So
music.
he starts using animatronics to do it. But instead of starting with Funtime Foxy, he starts with Balloon Boy, a childlike, smiling boy who gives out presents to the kids. He gives them balloons, specifically something the kids would love. And he has very specific voice lines, one that kids would recognize and hear. Either they hear Balloon Boy laugh in another room and wander off to get balloons from him, or they straight up think he's another kid and wander off to go help him. And then they get grabbed. Heck, this is probably why Balloon Boy can walk, so that he can lead children directly to the Afton. It's possibly him
Yeah, it is
stealing
wild
the Night Guard's batteries.
that he comes back in it, not comes back, but is, we see him here again in the game in Security Breach. Like he's in FNAF 2. And then I think we can get him in FNAF 6. We see him in Ultimate Custom Night, obviously. There's the creepy little, and I've always thought this was sus as well. The Little Joe and where did I put the books? They're back there. Like the mascots for the different like ads you can get in like FNAF 6 and other things. They're in the sister location too. The little, I think it's Little Joe, and then Lally. I think.
These keeps them from figuring
But like
out
they
what's
kind of
going
look
on,
like Balloon
making
Boy.
him
They're
a
just
lure and a distraction.
tiny.
Or maybe he just wants.
But like, why have an actual version of like a TV ad mascot? Like, it's weird.
His sweet, succulent AA batteries.
And he might not just be a lure for the kids, he could be a lure for the animatronics as well.
Yeah,
Recall in FNAF 3 that his voice lines are the ones that are used to lure Springtrap from room to room.
Because he sounds like a kid.
Sound-seeking sensors. This pre-recorded voice, put into Balloon Boy, serves as a lure for the children, and a lure for the animatronics to keep them away from where William is doing his work.
This is also, we should note, his purpose in the Twisted Ones. Charlie is lured to a specific area by his calls, thinking a child is in danger, and then is attacked by multiple wind-up balloon boys as the illusion discs ramp up. He's a lure in the books, and he's a lure in the games. That's what Balloon Boy's deal is.
But the lure doesn't work on the puppet, which Phone Guy notes is always thinking, and it can go anywhere. Likely William figured out the puppet was Charlie around this time and that she was more aware than the others, as she hadn't been split into parts. So he set up the music box to keep her quiet and keep her in one place.
I also kind of always viewed it as like a... if you accept... I was trying to think, like, what does this remind me of? It's Star Wars. If a Jedi like accepts basically their death, and they just like give themselves to the Force, they can then appear as a Force ghost. It kind of like, in my head, it was always with Charlie, like, because she died like with the puppet, there was some kind of, this is what we're going to do now deal.
So William is grabbing more kids, but not
That's
putting
just
them
me.
in suits.
What do I know?
Personally, I think the reason for this is that there wasn't room. There's too much high-tech stuff in the toys. There isn't a large chest cavity to shove kids into. That's why the Fun Times are specifically designed with
bigger.
the shape of a curled-up child inside of them.
Fucking Chica's waist. Like, come on. Not necessary.
That's why the Fun Times are specifically designed with the shape of a curled-up child inside of them, to make sure that the DCI waste doesn't happen again.
Psychopath.
But anyway, this starts up rumors and investigations. The new Freddy's opened and now there's more kids going missing. It has to be connected to the company.
Right.
Investigations begin and the animatronics notice. They're still in pieces, but they realize kids are going missing.
Yep.
And they figure out it's the security guard. Phone Guy says they've started acting aggressive towards the staff, the day before the day shift position becomes available. The same day, the building is put on lockdown. I believe that the morning of Night 5, or at least right after Night 4 ended, the DCI bodies were found, and they were found by the animatronics. The Save Them minigame shows a Freddy being led by the puppet throughout the place, seeing all the bodies, as well as watching Fredbear appear and disappear while avoiding the purple guy. Once the bodies are located, then the animatronics can do their job.
Same
Retrofitted
thing.
with safety equipment, part of those have to give them the ability to contact police if they see a criminal.
Yeah.
And this isn't just a guess. When Mengele enters the room, we can hear specifically them channeling into a police radio. They can reach the police, and when the toy animatronics see a fucking bleeding
know
dead
that's the
body in
police?
front of their stage,
Okay.
they're gonna contact the fucking cops. The day shift guard is immediately put under suspicion, since either he didn't notice all this kid killing or was the one doing it.
Right.
And William quietly slips away. He was under a fake name, they don't know it's him. Heck, they're now trying to contact the original owner of Fredbear's, which is him. Or
Right.
Henry, who's in jail. They're going off on an appropriately named rabbit trail, looking for someone who doesn't exist. The important thing is,
Right, but is this like? Wouldn't that be the point where you'd be like, hey, maybe that guy we have in jail isn't the guy?
has more information on his experiments, and he knows the possession is working.
Day 6, meanwhile, hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
The animatronics were in free roam mode and they see a yellow suit in the back. We really have two options here. Either someone used Spring Bonnie and everyone went nuts upon seeing their killer, or the Golden Freddy suit was what was moved. Both are likely. If Spring Bonnie was in that location, then obviously someone using that suit, heck, maybe William hiding out from the cops and then trying to escape without being spotted, would set off any and all MCI sensors.
Yeah.
However, Fredbear is just as likely. We see it appear and disappear in the Save Them cutscene, so Cassidy is active, though likely as confused and lost as he was before. He also doesn't seem to be moving the suit, just teleporting in a slouching position.
Yeah.
Probably just projecting images. This also ties into the idea that he's still not fully possessing it. He's tied to it, but without his body being found, he can't make full use of the possession. Either of these suits could have been what set the animatronics off, enough that the place is completely closed down by night 6, Phone Guy says. But they've got one more thing to do. A birthday party scheduled for day 7.
Yeah, the last thing.
Why this is still going on is unclear.
Crazy.
My current theory is that the news of the bodies being discovered hasn't been made public yet, and the police have cleared enough of the area to see if the killer would come back for this last pre-scheduled birthday. Killers love to go back to the scene of
True.
the crime, which is why police stake out those places as well as victims' memorials. So they stake out Freddy's. All Jeremy Fitzgerald is told to do is wear his uniform, stay close to the animatronics, and make sure they don't hurt anyone.
Well, that backfired.
That's right.
The next day, at the birthday party, one of the animatronics takes a nice little bite out of Jeremy Fitzgerald's head.
Yeah.
The building is ruled completely unsafe and closed down for good. They let the animatronics run around for one more night under the eye of Fritz Smith, who was immediately fired come morning for tampering with the robots that just put someone in the hospital. And then they pack them up and decide that the toy animatronics will be broken down and used to repair the originals. Why? Probably this was a William decision.
Yeah.
He knows what he did after all, and now he has full access to the possessed animatronics to continue his experiments with. He'll just put those wizards back together and see what he can do with those.
As for Fritz Smith, probably Michael. Biggest evidence for this being that he is fired for the exact same reasons as in FNAF 1, animatronic tampering and odor. Michael is a stinky, stinky boy, and we all have to remember this. But how would he get that job so fast? Phone Guy tells Jeremy they don't have his replacement on
His
the night
father's the
before,
owner.
and custom night is the night of the bite. Did he come in and apply while the bite was happening? While the place was closed down for an active crime scene? Can't be after, because they scrapped the toys after. No, I think what this is another part of William's chess match. He has his son go in and, like Vanessa does in the film, clean up his mess. Mike is found tampering with the animatronics, but what he's really doing is hiding the last evidence his dad left behind. He's under a fake name just like William was, but under William's influence as head of the company,
Yeah.
he could slip in and out as if he's been an employee.
Which is exactly what we get in Security Breach with Vanessa, when the guy who hired her was like, yeah, she has no qualifications to be the head security guard, but it came out from up top that she has to do it, and so...
This whole time. And when he disappears, just like William, nobody will find him again. William also knows that it's time to be more low-key, so he begins working on his next experiment.
Okay. That seems like a good place to pause, and then I'll finish the last. I have to rewatch this because I'm not even like processing. Like part 6, the last Aftons get scooped is going to be a whole thing, which I guess makes sense because I mean, true, because we're going to go into sister location-ish. Elizabeth's going to get scooped. And then William's going to get spring-locked. And then Michael gets scooped. Is, I think, where we're going. This is a ride. I'm going to have to rewatch this a couple times and watch Matt react to it and see what he says. Because I need a visual timeline to go with this, and I don't have one. So my brain is just not doing what it's supposed to. But that's enough for today. My head hurts. And I will see you guys next time. And hopefully soon I will get back into freaking Secret of the Mimic. Because it's driving me insane. Anyway. Y'all have a good night. I will see you when I see you. Bye.